Well, hello, welcome back. John Miller, Rock Solid Law. We've gone to a different cadence these days. We are going every other week instead of every week. Had the pleasure of taking a quick Independence Day trip up to see my mother, who lives in the mountains of North Carolina. It was beautiful, it was delightful. But as always, I'm happy to be back here at the beaches and leading my wonderful team at Rock Solid Law. I will mention Sigrid today, who is my legal assistant, and she helps me with all of the estate planning that we do here at Rock Solid, inclusive of course, helping people maintain their homestead exemptions, their various exemptions. So today we're going to talk about Florida law, particularly local law, because they are tied in on this subject, and the senior homestead exemption. A little bit of background. We did a session on homestead exemption and what homestead means in Florida. It has multiple definitions. The definition we're dealing with today is the exemption that allows a citizen of Florida to pay less taxes annually for their home. This does not apply to other real property, but only to one's residence, which must be properly recorded as your homestead. It is a little bit of a difficult process, but it can be very, very beneficial. My thought on it is, as someone who has lived in Florida, oh my goodness, over half my life, 45 something years, was not born here, born a Virginian, but moved here when I was 5. Did go away again, but moved back as soon as I graduated from Washington and Lee for law school in my home state of Virginia. But I just loved Florida and came back. So why do we want to give seniors an extra homestead exemption? I believe it's because we believe in having seniors age in their homes and to be able to keep their homes in Florida. You know, a lot of people do love to retire here, of course, people that weren't lucky enough, like my children, to grow up in Florida, like to come here at the end of their lives and enjoy Florida. Well, we particularly like to reward, as you'll hear in the next 20 minutes, people who've been here a long, long time. And I believe that's why we want to especially take care of our seniors. Of course, there's a lovely homestead exemption for all Floridians on our primary residence of $25,000 a person or $50,000 for a couple, reducing the taxable value of our residences. On top of that, in addition to that, we have 2 currently available exemptions for our seniors. I have researched this and I found numerous good sources. I believe that some of what I say in this period will be a bit repetitive. It's not an overwhelming easy for me to say. It's not an overwhelming amount of information, but I believe that sometimes by saying something a few times over, the message gets through. So there are currently, as I mentioned, 2 senior citizen additional homestead exemptions, and this is under our Florida statutes, so it's throughout all of Florida. And the statutory section, for anybody that's interested, is 196.075. These are available to limited income property owners 65 years or older. Now, one of them does require long-term residency, and they are adopted by local government. The Florida statutes allow local government to adopt these exemptions and to basically say what they will be and how you get them. So that's what we're going to be talking. Now, most of you know my practice is in Duval County. I'm in Jacksonville Beach. Actually, I did practice in St. Johns County at some points, but for 35 plus years, I have been practicing law primarily in Duval County. So we're going to make this a bit Duval County centric, but you know, it's county by county. No matter what county your home's in, these exemptions will apply. It just made sense to focus on one. Before I go into the weeds, if you will, I want to be sure to remember to invite all of you to our event, which is this evening. We plan an event at Hartage Giddens Beach's Chapel, which is on Beach Boulevard, at 5 p.m. this afternoon. We did that after the first COVID spike. And because of the local and national news at this point, we are going to be there live. We do have some people who have signed up and asked to come be with us and enjoy some food we'll provide and things like that, but not very many. And so as we watch the news, we added a Zoom option, and we will be live on the air again this afternoon, probably from about 5 on, maybe a little after 5, and we will have about an hour presentation on leaving your legacy, leaving a lasting legacy, which, as many of you know, is what we believe estate planning is all about. We will be joined by a representative of Hartage Giddens and also by a representative of Edward Jones. Our portion will be talking about simple ways of planning ahead, estate planning in general, wills, probate, and trust administration. What does that mean? And the idea of wealth preservation through estate planning. You know, you have to earn the money, you've got to save the money, so you'll have the money when you retire. If anybody is interested in that, please contact us today and we'll get you some more details on it. We would love to have you there, and we would love to share the Zoom room, that'd probably be my same one, that we'll be using tonight. So let's launch. You guys ready? All right, so if you're 65 or older, and maybe you're like me and you could see that coming down the road, you want to plan ahead, and you were living in your homestead property as of January 1 of the year you wish to apply. Okay, so 65 and older, it's the house you had to have been living in all year this year. And you have a household income of less than what is defined by the Florida Department of Revenue. It's currently about $30,000 income. And you have had your permanent residence in your homestead for 25 years, and your homestead has a market value of less than $250,000, you may be entitled to be completely exempt. Get that? Completely exempt. When does the government do that for you? From all property taxes. That's pretty amazing, right? I have to say, that says Florida loves our senior citizens like nothing else does. So, wow, how do we get there? I know it's a number of steps, and if you probably didn't write it down, this video will be available lately, but it's easy to keep up with those and see whether or not you qualify and then make applications. So the Board of County Commissioners, and as you know, in Duval County, we have a consolidated government, so they can adopt an ordinance to allow that additional, also, this is different, to allow an additional homestead exemption of up to $50,000. And here's how you become eligible for that exemption. You own a permanent homestead or residence, right? We said that's what we're talking about. You're 65 or older, and household income doesn't exceed the income limitation, about $30,000. Think about it. What is your income when you're a senior and you're retired? Maybe you have made it where your income isn't greater than that amount. So there are two options. One, you could get an additional $50,000 off the taxable value of your home. Worth it, right? And two, you can be completely exempt from taxation. And the big difference is the complete exempt is having been a Floridian for a long time. As I say, it's expressing the philosophy of the state of Florida to keep its people in place and allow them to retire and enjoy their homes. And especially, you know, guys, all Floridians know generally our property values go up, right? So what we're trying to do is protect that increase in property value so it doesn't hurt our seniors who age in place. So, skipping through my notes. In whatever county you reside, you will have to complete and file all required forms and applications for these exemptions, either the 50,000 or the complete exemption, with your county property appraiser. Jacksonville, that can be found at coj.net. If, for any reason, the county property appraiser denies your application, you can file a petition with the county's Value Adjustment Board to have that reviewed. Okay, so I wouldn't give up if you get the first denial. All right, so in Duval, right, specifically, there are currently two, as we discussed, two senior citizen additional homestead exemptions under the statute already mentioned, available to limited income property owners 65 years or older, properties in Duval County, and one of them requires long-term residency, as we've discussed. The long-term residency requirement exemption was adopted in 2014. And to qualify for the long-term residency senior exemption, an applicant must have your homestead in effect on the property. That proves it is your homestead. Be 65 years of age or older as of January 1 of this year. Have maintained permanent residency on the property for no less than 25 years. That has to be uninterrupted, by the way. You can't have moved somewhere else and come back. You have to meet the limited income requirements. Again, you may not rely on this as legal advice, but 30,000 is about where that cutoff is. And the just value of your home, the tax value that the appraiser has come up with, has to be less than $250,000. Now, if you're right on the line, you can challenge that valuation as well. It might be well worthwhile to get the exemption. The senior long-term resident exemption exempts the ad valorem City of Jacksonville's portion of property taxes up to the amount of the home's assessed value. The exemption applies to the City of Jacksonville tax levy and applies to any municipality tax levy that has also adopted the ordinance. Property owners with an existing limited income senior exemption on their property who believe they are eligible for the new long-term residency exemption must apply for the new exemption in order to receive it. This is not something that's going to magically appear in your mailbox. You have got to affirmatively apply for these exemptions. Obviously, the government says if you want a break from taxes, you have got to take action, right? You're going to have to show some evidence of meeting the income requirements. Now, the original senior exemption in Duval, which is up to $25,000, I said 50, that's for a couple, applies to those same municipal millages. That's your property taxes. The total household income limitation is the same for both exemptions. And that is done by the Florida Department of Revenue. The exact amount for 2020 is $30,721, which would have been your income for 2019. All right. So you're going to have proof of age, proof of all income, and total household income is defined as adjusted gross income. So that's something to take up with your accountant, right? Your CPA. From your tax return. You're going to have to use your tax return. And this, Duval County even says that it's on IRS Form 1040, it's line 37. On a 1040A, it's line 21, if you want to check yours out and see if you qualify. The total income, also, you can exclude Social Security benefits. So it's minus the Social Security benefits. It also includes pension, VA retirement annuities, interest income, and wages. Right? How do you apply? You go to the Duval County Property Appraiser's office and complete the Homestead and related tax exemptions application. So it's the same application where you get your homestead, you apply for these other exemptions. And you've got to do a statement of income, and you've got to, both forms are required for each or both exemptions, got it? And they're due by March 1st of the year. So at this point in the year, you're not going to be able to apply unless there's been a COVID extension, and I don't know about that, for 2020, but you can prepare for 2021. Very important point, everybody. Very important point. These exemptions do not auto-renew. They're not automatic. You're going to have to apply annually for the exemption. Think about it. It makes sense because our annual income could change every year, and that's a requirement for both of these. Now, since I was talking about this subject, and I do see a couple of questions coming in, so just a reminder that I will take those questions when I reach the end of my notes, and I look forward to that. I wanted to go over some other exemptions that probably we won't devote a full session to, but are important for people in certain circumstances. I want to hit that last point one more time. They do not automatically renew. That means to continue your exemptions, you're going to have to file every year. All right, so even if you've proven that you're completely exempt, that's the long-term resident one, or you've proven you're entitled to a $25,000 or $50,000 exemption, you're gonna have to do it every year. So if you go through this process one time, keep your application, you're gonna need it the next time, right? Okay, I wanna go over these, just a few other potential exemptions that are available. I had the honor recently of researching the issue of a disabled veteran keeping a homestead exemption while moving their property into their trust that they created as a part of their estate plan. And I was so happy that the result was that that warrior, that person that we honor so greatly for their service, was able to keep an amazing exemption in effect on their Florida residence. And I think it's appropriate that we did so. So what are these other things I'm talking about? There's an exemption for a deployed service member. If a U.S. military service member is deployed during the tax year, there may be an additional homestead exemption. The amount will depend on how many days of deployment, right? The surviving spouse of a person killed in military service has an additional homestead exemption pursuant to our Fallen Heroes Act. Maybe you know somebody that might qualify for that but doesn't know it. Additionally, and I love this one, the surviving spouse of a first responder is entitled to exemption if they're married to a first responder who was killed in the line of duty. Those of you that know me know that I have firefighters very close in my family tree. And of course, you know, like our police, we know that they put their lives on the line every day to serve us. And so I think this is really, all of these are so appropriate. A disabled veteran will also be qualified to an additional tax discount if they are 65 years or older and have a disability that's wholly or partly due to combat. Okay, so a disabled veteran from combat gets an additional exemption. Thank them for their service. Anybody who's online that served, thank you. Other disabled people. If a Florida homeowner is blind, needs a wheelchair for mobility, or is totally or permanently disabled, they can qualify for a $500 exemption from property taxes. So there are lots of different ways that these exemptions can be applied to property. I have one more note here that if they meet certain exemptions, pardon me, try again. If they meet certain requirements, veterans 65 or older who are partially or totally permanently disabled may receive a discount from tax on property that they own and use as homesteads. The discount is a percentage equal to the percentage of the veteran's permanent service-connected disability as determined by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs. Again, we're in Florida statutes, chapter 196 for these exemptions. So just a brief recapitulation of the two major senior homestead exemptions. They have in common that you must be 65 or older as of January 1, that you do have your homestead on the property, and that you meet the limited income requirements, just a little above $30,000 a year. Then the second one, the bigger exemption, is for those of us who have resided, homesteaded a property in Florida uninterrupted for not less than 25 years. Okay? So there is your presentation on senior homestead exemptions. I have a couple of good questions. Yes, you know, first off, this recording will be available at our website, www.rocksolidlaw / Dan, I've forgotten which one there is, /videos. Thank you for trying to educate me. Apparently that's fallen out of my head. /videos. All the videos from all the weeks are there if you would like to review or catch up. But I have a request for the notes that I made for this session, and I would be fine to share those if you will reach out to our Director of Client Relations, who is Shelley, spelled C-H-E-L-L-E. That's C-H-E-L-L-E @rocksolidlaw.com. We'd be glad to scan a copy of the notes over to you. So the next question, and again, I don't want to keep you on too long, and I realize I'm coming up on the 30-minute mark here. Do both owners have to be 65 or older? Both do not, but only one exemption would be granted. In other words, the person who is not yet 65 would not be eligible. So in the event that there is a $50,000 potential reduction or exemption, it's only going to be 25, right? For the one person who applies who meets all the criteria. I do know that in the instance, of course, of the disabled veteran, the spouse was not also disabled, and therefore they still got the exemption to which they were entitled. I am presuming that the senior exemption works the same way. I do have one more question, and if anybody else wants to get one in, I'd ask you to put it up there. This question is, would you do a presentation to a real estate firm via Zoom? I would absolutely love to. I miss teaching to my realtors. That's one of my favorite things to do before the pandemic. And I'd be really happy to do it on a Zoom presentation as well. We are going to start diversifying these Zoom programs. And in fact, I believe in 2 weeks, which is the next one, we will address a real estate issue. I probably should have had a note on which one that is, but I don't. So you'll have to tune in. I'm sure that we will get a flyer out to all of you on what that is. If you will contact me, Ann, again through Shelley, CHELLE, at rocksolidlaw.com, or any of the info or questions at any of those, will run its way up to me eventually. Or maybe be managed by the person who's better capable of setting me up to come speak or sit here and speak. And do suggest what subjects you guys are most interested in. Recently, we've been teaching a lot of portability classes, which is very important. There is a Zoominar on portability, I believe, at our videos site on our website. Would love, absolutely love to do that. I see we've reached the half-hour mark. I hope that this was valuable to all of you. I really appreciate you all participating this morning. We actually, I believe, had more participants than we had people sign up. So I look forward to helping any of you that need help in this and other estate planning and real estate areas. We absolutely enjoy working with all of you and being a part of our community. And wow, thank you. That was great. It's great for me too. I'm going to go ahead and cue Lionel Richie again and the Commodores. Seeing no further questions, and I will look forward to seeing some or all of you when we were able to do so. I encourage you all to be safe, healthy, and live long and prosper. Hope to see you in 2 weeks or sooner if we can take a question for you. Thank you. Thank you, Connie. Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Dan. Alice, thanks for joining. I don't think I saw you on here earlier. John, Mary, thanks for being here. Susan, good morning. Thanks for being here. Look forward to talking to you soon. Have a fantastic week or so.